All right, so thank you once again for joining today's section. So, yesterday we began the lecture by looking at the mega revision practice question on business statistics. So, we were able to look at section 1. So, today I continue from section 2, and then we ended here that of what yesterday. So, today I continue from question number 26. So, given the sample data, for a quick notice, if you just join, please do want to like the video, share so that others will get a benefit to always to join this session in that particular case. All right, so let's continue. Question number 26. Given the sample data 3, -2, -4, 1, 0, -1, and 2, which of the following is true? So we are asked to determine which of the following is true from the list here. So for us to know which of the following is true, we need to actually compute for the options that has been given here. So you're going to compute for mean, you're going to compute for standard sample variance, you compute for sample standard deviation, then you compute for the median, right? So that's what we're going to do in that particular case. So let's start by first computing. Because of the nature of my board, once I compute for a particular measure, I will erase it so that we'll continue in that line. So let's first compute for the mean of this data. All right, the mean of this data. So we are going to have mean as x bar should be equal to the summation of x values divided by n, right? So what is happening here? So our x values are what? So we have 3 plus negative 2. So plus -2. Okay, plus -4. All right, plus 1 plus 0 plus -1. Then we have plus 2. Let me bring it here. And then divide by, so how many sets of numbers do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7. And then divide by 7. So what are we getting at the end of the day? You're supposed to get -1/7. You can also check with your calculator and let's see if that is true. So once you're able to get that, for us to compute this to a decimal form, you're supposed to get negative 0.14142857. That is what I got for my case, 142857. So that is the first part. So do you have the mean to be equal to -0.41 as you have computed here? So it means that the mean is out. It's not true for this data, right? So mean is crossed, it's not part. So once you are done with that, we can also compute for the sample variance, So let me erase this so that we compute for the sample variance. So mean is out, so we don't use mean as part of the option. Is out. Then we are also asked to compute for sample variance. So to compute for sample variance, we said that to calculate a sample variance for an ungrouped data is going to be so our sample variance x squared should be equal to summation of x minus x bar all squared. Since the sample, we divide by we divide by n minus 1. So there's a formula for computing for a sample variance. So what are we going to get out of this? So we say that x squared should be equal to, so we are going to actually deviate the mean from the original set of data. We are going to deviate the mean from the original set of data. Okay, so we were able to compute that our mean was in terms of fraction, we had the mean to be equal to -1/7, if you can remember. Okay, so that is there. So that means that for us to compute for the sample variance is going to be, so we're going to deviate the mean from these values. So we're going to have 3 minus -1/7, then we square it based on the formula here for the denominator, sorry, for the numerator. Okay, plus, since it says summation, so we are going to sum them up by introducing addition. Then plus, we have we have -2 minus -1/7 squared plus, and we also have -4, okay, minus -1/7 squared. Okay, then let me bring the plus here because of the nature of my board, plus. Then we also have so from 1 to 1, so we have 1 minus -1/7 squared. Okay, remember, then we also have plus 0 minus 1 over 7, because the mean is actually negative 1 over 7. That is why I'll bring in that. So it means that we are subtracting the negative 1 over 7 from what? The original or the raw data here. So we have here also squared plus. So I also have here to be what? Negative 1 minus 1 over 7 squared plus last one 2 negative 1 over 7 then squared. And remember, since how many sets of data do you have? 7, right? So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, we divide by what? All by 7. And since the sample, you subtract 1 from what? The observation or the frequency in that line. Okay, so once you're able to do this, I expect at the end of the day, you're supposed to get your final answer. You're supposed to get a value of, you're supposed to get our sample variance to be equal to 5 point. So in my case, I had 5.8081, 5.8081. So approximately to, like say, 2 decimal, you're supposed to get what? 5 points what? So approximately 2 is supposed to get something like this. Let me have it here. 5.81. So is it also true for our sample? Look at it very critically. We have 5.18, not 81. So here it is also out. So means that the sample variance also out is not true for this set of data. Okay, so this is what we're going to do to actually get the right answer to that. So let's move on. So we also asked to calculate what? That of the sample standard deviation. So we can easily do that from the sample variance here, right? So for us to get the standard deviation for the sample, is going to be what? The square root of what? The variance, which is what? 5.81. So 5 square root of 5.81, what are we getting? You're supposed to get, with my case, I had a variance of what? Approximately 2 decimal places. I have what? 2.41. So we have 2.41, so we can take that. Okay, and let's also lastly calculate what the median for this data. So that means we're going to arrange this data in ascending order of what? Magnitude. So we start by looking at from the ascending order. So that means we're going to have what? -4 being the lowest to the highest, which is what? 3, right? So we're going to have it here as what? So made value in arranging in ascending order supposed to be what? -4, then -2, then -1, then we have what? 0, we have 1, we have 2, and we have 3. So for us to locate the median of this data, we will say that we are going to count 1 2 3, we end here, and we also count 1 2 3, we also end here. So that means that the made value is equal to what? 0. The made value is equal to, but here is the median equal to 0 here, so it means that the mean is also not true. So therefore, the option which is true for the data above is what? The sample standard deviation, which is what? The sample standard deviation, which is what? 2.41, as you have calculated in this case. So let's take note of that. And that is the perfect solution that I've made it here. So we can just glance through and then get it in that line, right? So that is for question number 26. So let's take note of that. So the correct answer is option what? C. So let's move on to question number 27. A final examination in a course is weighted 3 times as much as a quiz. This is how the question goes, that a final examination in a course, right, is weighed 3 times as much as a quiz. Find the mean grade of a student if the student had a final exam grade score of 85 and a quiz grade of 70 and 90. I hope you are following. So we have a final examination in a course which is weighed 3 times as much as what? A quiz. So that is the rule. So if my final examination is F, that means that final examination is going to be 3 times that of what? A quiz score. So this is going to be what? B, right? So what is happening here? It says that we have to find the mean grade of a student if the student had what? A final exam grade score of what? 85, and then a quiz grade of what? 70, and then 90. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to say that to find the mean score for this, so this is actually the application of what a weighted what mean. Okay, so that means that it's going to what the final examination score is going to what 3 times multiplying the score of what 85, and the rest is going to be what just one, just going to be what one, right? So the quiz is one, and then that of the quiz grade, which is 70 and 90, the weight is for just what one, but it's only the emphasis on the final examination is what the weight, which is what three. Okay, so that's what we need to understand. If you have any question, you can drop it in the comment section and I'll take it from there. So we have 3 multiplying what 85 plus 1 multiplying 70, okay, plus 1 multiplying what 90. I hope you are following in that line. All right, so that means that at the end of the day, you're supposed to get what? You're supposed to get since it's a mean, we are going to divide by what? The weight. We want to find the weight, so we divide by the total weight. So we have what? 3 plus 1 plus 1, we are getting 5. So 3 plus 1 plus 1. So at the end of the day, you're supposed to get what? 415 divided by 5, and you're supposed to get what? 83.00 or 83. Right? So that means that here the option is what? A. So let's take note of that. Let's take note of that. Let's take note of that. So that is question 27. Now let's move on to question number. So this is a solution that I've actually made it perfect way to explain what I said in that case. So it means that the final exams carries what the weight of what 3, and any quiz score will carry a weight of what 1, and the quiz score was what 2, 17, and 9. So that's why we're getting what the weight to be 5. I hope that is fine, right? So let's take note of that. Any question, please drop in the comment, and do all to like this video and share. And if you have any comment, drop it in the comment section. If you haven't subscribed to, do all to subscribe to the channel so we get it in that line. Let's move on to question number 28. The quality construction company pays its hourly employees 6,500 Ghana cedis, 7,500 Ghana cedis, 8,500 Ghana cedis per hour. So there are 26 hourly employees, 14 are paid. So you have been given the hourly rate that they paid, and then it goes on to tell us that we have for 26 hours employees, and then 14 are paid what the 6,500 rate, 10 are paid what 7,500, and 2 are paid what 8,500 Ghana cedis. So the question here is, what is the mean hourly rate paid the 26 what employees? Paid the 26 employees. So this is also an application of what a weighted what mean. Okay, so that means that for us to calculate the mean hourly rate paid for these 26 employees, going to be, so the weight is going to be like this. It's going to be, so we have what 14 who are paid what 6,500 rate as their salary. So that's going to what 14 multiplying. We want to know the total amount we pay to 14 employees, where each receive what 6,500, right? So that's going to what 14 multiplying 6,500 plus. Then we also have that of 10 multiplying what 7,500. Okay, then plus we also have that of what 2 multiplying what, let me bring it here. We also have 2 multiplying what 8,500. I hope you are following that. So that means at the end of the day, we divide by the total number of employees or the hourly rate that we have within the organization, which is what 26. So that means we're going to have here to be 14 plus 10 plus 2. And what are we getting? With my case, I had these values. Let's see. So I had the total of, well, when I divide this by the summation that I have a total of what a mean value of a total of 7,038.46. Okay, so actually for us to find it in two decimal, currencies are always in two decimal places. So if it's in Ghana cedi, then if it were to be in dollars, then that's fine. They have been what 7,038.46 dollars. So this in Ghana cedi, so we have it in that line. So let's take note of that. So that is how we go by this. And then here we go. The final presentation on this is what we can see here in that line. So let's take note of that. If you have any question, drop in the comment section. Do want to like the video as well. Then let's move on to question 29 and 30. We are asked to use the data below to answer question 29 and 30. All right, so the data below shows the frequency distribution for the number of minutes per week spent watching TV by 400 junior high school students. Okay, so we have the viewing time in minutes and we have what the number of students in that line. And remember, this is what a group what data. So the number of minutes that they watch television and then the number of students, junior high school students who watch the television. So we have the viewing time and we have what the frequency for each viewing what time. So we have the first four, which is what from 3000 to what 300 to 300 and what 99, 14 throughout to 76, and we also have others here. So also we also have 68, 62, 48, 22, 6 in that line, and their viewing times also there. And this is the total what number of students as the question gave to us as what 400 here. I hope you can see that. All right. So what is the question that we asked you actually? What is our comment? Which of the following values represent the mean? So how are you going to calculate the mean from this data? So in an examination situation where you are given this large set of table for you to compute for mean, you just need to be smart. If it's an MCQ type like this, then you need to be smart to be able to solve it with time. I mean within time, so that you can easily get your answer and then get your perfect score. So this is what you're going to do. Actually, if you know how to use calculator, well, you can easily maximize the advantage of calculator and then get it right. So because this is a group data, you must first of all have to calculate what we call our midpoints. Midpoint. And how do you calculate midpoint? Midpoint is what? The summation of what? For example, the summation of what? The lower class interval here, where the lower class limit, which is 300, plus that of the upper class limit or upper class interval for the first class. When we add it and we divide by, when we add these two numbers and divide by 2, we get what? The midpoint. So we do same here, 400 plus what? 499 added to divide by 2, 500 plus 599 divide by 2, so we exhaust the list up to what 1100 and then plus 1199 and then divide by 2. That's what we're going to do to compute for what the midpoint in that line. So let's take note of that. So once you're able to get the midpoint, then you're going to multiply the midpoint by what the number of students. That becomes what the frequency, so that we get summation what f of x, and then divide by summation f, which is what the total frequency, and we get what the mean. So that's how we calculate. So mean is going to what? So mean in this case is going to be summation f of x divided by what? Summation f. So the summation f is going to be the frequency multiplied by the midpoint. So the midpoint is going to be what? The x values, which is what the lower class limit added to the upper class and then divided by what? 2. So I've made some nice presentation here on how we go about that. So as you can see on your screen there, we have the viewing time here. Okay, we have it here in that line, and we also have the number of students in terms of their viewing what minutes also there. That's observation. And this how I was talking, the main point I was talking about is this. So with this one, this is what you're going to do. Once you're able to get a midpoint, which is what the addition of what 300 plus 399 add divide by 2, where we're getting what 349.5. Once you're able to get this right, that becomes a midpoint. So we're going to do same for all the class the class the class interval that we have here. Sorry, the class interval that we have here. Okay, so you do same so that you get a midpoint. So once you get a midpoint for these values, you then have to multiply this midpoint by the frequency so that you get what summation f of x. So when you multiply 14 by what 349.5, you're supposed to get what 4,800 what 93, and it runs through till you get to this what page. So that means after when you add all these values, you're supposed to get what 286,000. So once you get that, becomes summation f of s, and then divide by the total summation f, which is the frequency, which is 400, and you're supposed to get what 715. So that's what we need to do when it comes to group data. You must first calculate your midpoint, and then you multiply the midpoint by the frequency so that you get your summation f of x, and then divide by summation f so that you get your mean for a group of data. So let's take note of that. The other class boundaries that you see here, we're going to use it for the next question, so don't worry about it. I'll explain that one as we get there. So question 30, we are asked you calculate which of the following values also represent what the mode. So how do we calculate the mode? We said that to calculate the mode of a group data, mode should be equal to what? The lower class or boundary for the modal class plus, so plus what? The first triangle 1 divided by triangle 1 plus triangle 2. All right, and then multiply by our class width or class size, and then multiply by our class width or class size. I hope that is clear. So the L1 represent what? The lower class boundary of the modal class. The triangle 1 here, in some tests, I will explain the two approach. In some tests, they will tell you that triangle 1 is actually the cumulative frequencies that comes before the modal frequency, right? They will tell you that it is the cumulative cumulative frequencies that comes before the modal frequency, and triangle 2 also be that is also what? The cumulative frequencies that comes after the modal frequency. But in other tests, they will tell you that triangle 1 is the difference between what? The frequency before the modal class and the modal frequency, or is the difference between the modal frequency and then the frequency that comes before the modal frequency. And the triangle 2 is also that in other tests you also see that you also tell you it's also the difference between what? The frequency of the modal class and the next succeeding what? Frequency. That's the frequency that comes after the modal frequency. So these are the two ways that you can see in other texts. So any way that you see, I mean, if it's an MCQ type, you expect that you calculate the two approaches so that you're good to go. But the rest, L1 and then the C remains what the same. So let's take note of what these two approaches, as I said. So in this case, we are going to use our data to actually compute that. So from here, what is our modal frequency? So modal frequency means that the number of frequencies that occur the most in a set of data. So we have 14, 46, 58, 76, 68, 62, 48, 22, and 6. So which of them should be the highest frequency? And that's supposed to be what? 76. So the modal frequency is supposed to be what? 76. All right. So that means that we are going to have a class interval for the modal frequency from what? In between what? 600 to what? 699. All right. So that means that since the formula captures L1, which is the lower class boundary of the modal class, we are going to calculate our class boundary. And how do you calculate class boundary? You said to calculate class boundary, you must first of all find what the difference between the upper class of the first class and then compare that to the lower class of the second class. So for example, we are going to say that 399 compared to 400. Once you compare that, we get a value of 1 and then divide by what? 2. So that becomes what? The midpoint. That becomes what? The midpoint. That separates what? The band, that separates the limits of the values. So once you're able to, if you want to test that is true for all, you can try. 499 compare 500, 699 compare 7, you're going to get 1. So when you get 1, you divide by 2. So once you divide by what are you going to get? For you to get your class boundary, that means that you're going to what? Subtract that value you have gotten from the lower class limit and then add the same value to what? The upper class, so that you get your class boundary. So here, when we subtract 399 from 4, you're going to get what? 1. So 1 divided by is supposed to get what? 0.5. So once you get a 0.5, we add a 0.5 to what? 399, and that's going to fetch us what? 399.5, and we subtract 0.5 from 300, you're supposed to get what? 299.5, and that would define the class boundary of the first class interval, right? And we are going to do the same thing for all other class intervals here so that you get your class boundaries. But since we are interested in the lower class limit of the modal class, then you're supposed to work on with this. So that means that you subtract 0.5 from 600, you're supposed to get 599.5, and that becomes the lower class boundary for the modal class. Okay, so that means that here we're gonna have here to put 5 is it 599? Yeah, 599.5 plus 59.5 plus. So we are going by the first approach. So that means that if you are going by, okay, let's go by this. I think I use the other approach where we do the cumulative frequency for these triangles in the second presentation. So let's go by the second approach I was talking about, which is the difference. So that means the second triangle here, right, is going to be the difference between what? The frequency of the modal class and then the frequency that comes before the modal class. So let's see. So the frequency of the modal class is 76 and the frequency that comes before the modal class what is 58 here. I hope you can see that. So you take the difference between the two, whatever we get becomes triangle what? 1. So we're gonna have here to what? 76 minus 58 divide by 76 minus 58, okay, plus you also compare triangle 2, which is also what? The difference between what? The frequency of the modal class and the frequency that comes after the modal class. So that means that we have 76, compare that to also what? The frequency, which is what? 68. That's after the modal class. So the after the modal frequency is what? 68. So you compare that one to. So you're gonna have what? 76 minus what? 68. And then multiply by our class. What will be our class width? Our class size. To calculate our class width or class size is a difference between what? The lower class boundary of a particular class compared that to the upper class boundary of what? A particular class. So that means that for me to find what? The class size for the modal class is going to be the difference between what? 699.5 minus 599.5 minus 599.5. So when you take the difference, you're supposed to get what? I think you're supposed to get 100. You can try that. You're supposed to get 100. Here, you're supposed to get 100. I think so. You're supposed to get 100 in that line. So once you're able to get that, you multiply by what? 100. You multiply by 100. And whatever you're going to get should be the answer to this particular case. So here is where we consider the difference in terms of the triangle, the difference between the modal class before the frequency of the modal class and after the frequency of the modal class in that line. But now we also have the cumulative frequencies too. You also have to do that. So always compete for the two so that you know which one actually will best fit for the options given in that particular case. So yeah, what will be the answer? Put your answer there for me in that case. So this is what I was talking about. Here I was using what? That was the old presentation I made for some time ago. So here the triangle one, I was using what? The cumulative frequency that comes before what? The modal frequency. So here that means I sum up what? 58, 46, 14. That is what other tests will also tell you. Right, so that's going to triangle 1, which is what? 118. But for triangle 2, it's going to be what? The summation of what? The frequency that comes after the modal class, which is what? 76. So that is going to start from 68, 62, 48, 22, and then 6. If sum them, are we going to get what? 206. So when you put them together, you're supposed to get what? I mean, a final answer to what? 635.92 in that line. All right. So as I always say, when you get opportunity, try to calculate the two approaches and then know the one that will best fit for your options in that case. This is just a question to explain the two approaches that we're supposed to know in that particular case. So let's take note of that. If you're online, do all to share the videos so that others will get the benefit to always watch from this channel, okay? Do all to share and then subscribe as well. All right, so let's continue. So that will be the end for the first set. The second set of our MCQ solving on mega practice revision question on business statistics. So let's take note of that. So this is going to be another set of questions we're going to look at when it comes to revisions on business statistics. So let's check